Can you believe that this is the fourth movie in this franchise already? One that started with the Godzilla reboot back in 2014, almost exactly 7 years ago now. And while I thought the design of the new Godzilla was pretty awesome, the movie itself was just pretty boring with basically no interesting characters or a compelling plot. But then a few years later we got Kong Skull Island that to my surprise turned out to be pretty decent. It was relatively funny, had some characters that I actually liked, and the monster action was entertaining. And then another couple years later we got Godzilla King of the Monsters. A movie that I watched but didn't review because I felt like turning off my critical mind and just attempting to enjoy the ride, and I would say it was at least more entertaining than the first Godzilla. The monster action was once again great, but the story and the characters were equally lacking. Which brings us to this crossover, a movie that I've been actually looking forward to. Now I wouldn't say I was expecting much, but I remained cautiously optimistic, hoping this one would be more in the vein of Skull Island and less in the vein of the Godzillas. And you know what? I would say that my hopes in that regard were actually somewhat fulfilled. I mean, first of all, this starts off as a legit comedy. The opening scene is just straight up shot and edited like a comedy. And I liked it, and it put me in a good mood, so that's definitely not a bad way to start off. The downside of that though is that that's probably the funniest scene in the entire movie. Now there are a lot of attempts to be funny and a few of them succeed, but the vast majority of them just feel pretty lame and forced, to be honest. And as far as the characters go, they are basically all paper thin cardboard cutouts. Especially the bad guys here are just nothing. There was no effort at all put into them. Now the good guys at least have a tiny little bit of something going on. But it's not much, and if it weren't for the little deaf girl and her relationship with Kong, bringing the faintest hint of humanity and some sort of emotional depth to the story, this one wouldn't have had anything to offer in that department whatsoever. But because it's there and it works better than I actually thought it would, there's at least a little bit of something to grab onto. A sliver of an emotional core that did elevate this a notch above the previous Godzilla movies. And in general too, I mean, this is a monster movie and the story is ridiculous, completely absurd. But it is actually surprisingly cohesive, and I would say that as stupid as it is, it still works. And had they completely cut out Millie Bobby Brown's character and her storyline, it would have been even better. Because that part felt so unnecessary and shoehorned in, and don't even get me going on the payoff there. It's just one of the most idiotic things I've seen in quite a while, and I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, here's the thing. This is a movie about giant monsters smashing each other to bits. And that part definitely worked. I thought it was thoroughly entertaining. And part of what kept it interesting and entertaining was the fact that they threw just about everything and the kitchen sink into the story here. They just kept coming up with new things to add to it, and this is truly a mishmash of all sorts of things. Because it's not only Godzilla meets King Kong, it's Godzilla meets King Kong meets Hunger Games, meets Jurassic Park The Lost World, meets Iron Sky The Coming Race. I mean, you get the point. They took elements from a billion different places and just threw all of them in there. And you know, I thought it was kind of fun. It's ridiculous and stupid, but kind of fun. Which means that I'm inclined to give this something like a high 6. Boop. But how about it? Would I recommend it? I mean, if you want to see some giant monsters hit each other, sure. And if you don't, then you can probably skip this one, or do whatever you feel like. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that'd be fantastic.